Here in Google Earth, I will show you crystal clear scientific evidence that the creators of Giza, the Giza Plateau with the pyramids in Egypt, they knew the exact size and shape of Earth as accurately as we do today. So here we are hovering a bit over Giza, and let me zoom in here and show you what this evidence consists of. You can probably see these yellow lines here that converge or zero in on Giza here. And they are from 6 of the highest mountains in the world, exactly to Giza. And they end up right here on the Giza Plateau. These 6 mountains, 3 of them are in Africa, and 3 are outside of Africa. Let me start with showing you the 3 mountains in Africa that zero in on Giza. Those are the 3 highest mountains in Africa, 1, 2, and 3, Mount Kilimanjaro, Mount Kenya, and Mount Stanley. And outside of Africa, 3 mountains, not just any mountains there either. We have Europe's highest mountain here, Mount Elbrus to Giza. And then we have the highest mountain in Asia and in the world, Mount Everest to Giza. And then the next continent beyond Asia is Oceania here. And its highest mountain, Puncak Jaya, has a distance here to Giza also. And those are the 6 mountains whose distances to Giza prove what I claimed here. And these distances come in 3 pairs of distances. And the first pair here is Mount Kilimanjaro and Mount Kenya, Mount Kenya, 1 and 2 in Africa, and their distances to Giza. And here I'm going to introduce the ratio which orders all of these distances in each pair. Mount Kilimanjaro's distance to exactly Giza is as 1 meter. This is the longer yellow line here, Mount Kilimanjaro's. And Mount Kenya's distance to Giza is as 1 yard. So exactly, here we have Google Earth's measure tool. So exactly the meter and the yard, or precisely the ratio between 1 meter and 1 yard, is what orders these 2 distances. Mount Kilimanjaro and Mount Kenya exactly to Giza. Let's go to the second pair of distances here. And that is Mount Stanley down here and Mount Elbrus up here to Giza. In this pair, Mount Elbrus' distance to Giza is exactly as 1 meter, while Mount Stanley's distance is exactly as 2 yards. So here we have the ratio in the second pair of 1 meter and 2 yards exactly to Giza. In the third and final pair of mountain distances, we have Mount Everest here to Giza and Puncak Jaya over here to Giza. And in this pair, Mount Everest's distance to Giza is as 1 yard, while Puncak Jaya is as 2 meters exactly to Giza. So all of these 3 pairs of mountain distances are ordered by the ratio between the meter and the yard exactly to Giza, but in 3 variants, as I just showed you here. You probably don't believe me yet if you watched this far, so I'm going to have to measure this to convince you. So let's start with the first pair here, and that's Mount Kilimanjaro and Mount Kenya to Giza. So we'll fly down to Mount Kilimanjaro's peak and measure from there to the Giza Plateau. And here is where we find the highest point on Mount Kilimanjaro, right here where I've placed the pin. And let's measure from there to the Giza Plateau. And where we'll measure to is, here is the Great Pyramid up here. Within its footprint, we find the distance. If you look in the measure tool here, in the top row here, that's the map length. We find the distance of 3,717,600 in meters. right there, 3717600 in meters. And that is what we're going to find in yards from Mount Kenya to the second pyramid here. So let's shift to yards and measure from Mount Kenya to Giza. Now we're flying to Mount Kenya, its very peak. And the peak of Mount Kenya is right here in the second or two, right there. Here we have the peak of Mount Kenya. And let's fly up to Giza. So again, the Giza plateau here, and we're measuring here to the second pyramid, this one, in yards. If you look in the second row here, or that's the ground length distance. There we find 3717600 in yards right here. Exactly the same numbers that we had in meters from Mount Kilimanjaro to the Great Pyramid. So that's the first pair. 1 meter and 1 yard is the ratio there. Let's go to the second pair of distances, which is then Mount Stanley and Mount Elbrus to Giza. And first Mount Stanley, it's very peak down here, and we'll measure from there in yards. And right here is the peak of Mount Stanley, and up to Giza we go. And this time the distance is to the second pyramid here, where we find in the top row here, the map length distance, this one, we find the distance of 3584200 yards. 3584200. Divide that in half and you get 1792100. So let's now shift to meters and measure from Mount Elbrus, Europe's highest mountain, in meters, to Giza. And there we will find 1792100 meters. So let's attach the line here at the very peak of Mount Elbrus, right there, and measure to Giza. And this one is also here to the second pyramid. If you look in the top row here, the map length distance, we have 1792100 in meters right here. 1792100 in meters. Exactly half the numbers we had in yards from Mount Stanley to here. So that then means that in the second pair, we had the ratio of 1 meter and 2 yards exactly to Giza from these two mountains, Mount Elbrus and Mount Stanley. Let's now go to the third and final pair, Mount Everest and Puncak-Jaya, and we'll begin measuring from Mount Everest to Giza in yards this time. And here is the very peak of Mount Everest. In a second or two, we'll find it here. There it is. The peak of Mount Everest is right here. And we'll measure from here to Giza now in yards. And here we have a distance again to the second pyramid here on the Giza plateau. If you look in the middle row here, that's the ground length distance. We have a distance of 5895750 right here. 5895750 yards. If you double that number, you get 11791,500. 11791,500. And that's what we are going to find in meters when we measure now from Puncak-Jaya to Giza. So let's fly to Puncak-Jaya. And the very peak of Puncak-Jaya we have right here, Oceania's highest mountain. The peak is right here. And let's fly to Giza. And we are looking for 11,791,500 meters here. 11,791,500. And if we look in the middle row here, the ground length distance, we have it just here when we reach the Great Pyramid. 11,791,500 in meters. And that then means that in this third and final pair of distances, Mount Everest's distance, this shorter distance here, is exactly as 1 yard, while this longer distance from Punsakaya to Giza is exactly as 2 meters. So there you have it. These 6 mountain distances to Giza, coming in 3 pairs, as I just showed you here, clearly show that the creators of Giza, who placed Giza right here, knew exactly the location of the highest mountain peaks around in Africa and beyond Africa. And they placed Giza, so Giza relates to these mountains in the way I showed you here, with exactly the ratio between the meter and the yard, and in 3 variants here. First we had 1 meter and 1 yard with Mount Kilimanjaro and Mount Kenya to Giza, and then 1 meter and 2 yards with Mount Elbrus and Mount Stanley to Giza. And then finally, with Mount Everest and Punsakaya to Giza, we had 1 yard and 2 meters exactly to Giza. So, if you're not convinced yet that they knew the exact location of these mountains, and also then the exact size, shape, and surface topography of Earth, I'm going to put out more videos where I show mountain distances to Giza and show you how ordered those distances are.